Just a little further. We're almost there. Watch your head with those branches. You wouldn't want to get hit by one of them again. Will you look at that? Isn't it magnificent? Oh, look over there is a snowman that I made not too long ago. I call him Wilson. He kept me company last time when I was foraging for some food in the area. He's definitely seen better days, slumping like that. The warmer days certainly didn't help. Does he look a bit sad to you? Let's change that. I'll quickly make a hat out of some of those twigs, and you draw a line on his face, so he appears to be smiling. Maybe also attach his arm again. There we go. Now he looks much happier. Ooh, that's quite a chilly breeze. Do you need an extra cloak? Here, have mine. Yeah, don't worry, I'm warm enough. Besides, I like it when it's chilly sometimes. Makes me feel alive. As long as it doesn't hold on for too long. I know you're too proud to admit it, but I'm pretty sure you're as tired as I am. We should set up camp. How about over there? Seems like a good spot. There's a softer patch of ground. Oh, I hear rumbling in the distance. And I felt a drop of rain. we should get a move on. Why don't you get the fire going while I set up the tent? I see we already had things figured out. There was some dry wood just under that bush over there. Best to start with some small twigs and then build up from there. I'll get a few big sticks to set up the tent. We'll meet back here when we're done. Okay? Fantastic. I also gathered a few rocks to make a fireplace. How are we going to light it? Well, I have a trick up my sleeve for that. A merchant gifted me these years ago, after I helped his cart out of the mud. These aren't just any rocks. If you tap them lightly, like this, you'll notice it lets blue and green sparks fly. It will soon get warmer in your hand. When it gets too hot to hold any longer, just drop them in the fire pit, and you'll now have no trouble kindling a fire. Just like that, see? Even works when it's damp and windy. Ah yeah, that's better. Falls are just incredible, aren't they? We should really come here more often. Fulgrim likes this place quite a lot to go hunting for fish down by the rocks. Further downstream, the river slowly descends, forming natural steps that make it easy to spot fish in the shallow waters. The water here is incredibly clear. I actually filled a flask just beforehand. Do you want a sip? I'll use the rest for the tea later. It's important to stay hydrated. Where is Dash? Oh, she won't follow us out here, I'm afraid. She doesn't like open spaces like this. We are in the wild, after all. She much prefers the comfort of a bush or a hollow in the ground. Or she might join us in the tent, once it's dark. Talking about the tent, I believe we're finished. I think that should hold. We can always tighten the lines a bit if the wind picks up during the night. Now, how's that fire coming along? That certainly looks promising. We'll be toasting warm in no time. Actually, it's probably a good idea to put the kettle on. I gathered some herbs on the way. There. Now we'll just have to wait a moment. Meanwhile, we could eat something, don't you think? Here, it doesn't look like much, but you'll have enough with 2 or 3. Some bread to go with it? Sure. Good, right? Just what we needed. The water should be boiling now. Here, I'll add the herbs. It will only take another moment. I promise it will do wonders after the walk we just had. Sora can't be far off, I think. Can you see her? No? I'm pretty sure she can see us. Her eyes adapt to the dark far better than ours. Actually, that might be her calling in the distance. Listen. The night sky is incredible, isn't it? I want to show you my favourite star. Look, where my finger's pointing. See it? No, a bit further up. It has a reddish shimmer. The brightest one of all. Yeah, that's the one. If you look closely, it connects 2 separate constellations. The fish and the crown. Can you see it? It does take a bit of imagination. Here, I'll draw it on the ground. So that's the red star. Here's the fish. And these over here make up the crown. The red star being the crowning jewel. Why is it my favourite? Well, it's useful to keep my bearings. And just the idea of a fish wearing a crown just gets me. Who knows, maybe it's the night sky's way of telling a joke. It's getting late. I'll put some more wood on the fire. Meanwhile, just get comfortable. There are more blankets in my bag back there. Wait, I'll hand you some. How does that feel? Good. What's that tower up on the cliff? That's been a ruin as long as I can remember. It used to be a watchtower. Shortly after I arrived, the soldiers had left everything behind. I guess whatever purpose it once served, it no longer has any significance. Got lucky finding it. Pots and pans were too heavy for them to carry all the way back, so they didn't bother packing it. Now nature's taken back the rest. I could tell you a story if you'd like, while you enjoy this cup of tea. It shouldn't be too hot anymore. Cozy enough? It's been a while since I last told this story, so I hope I remember everything. Alright, here it goes. In the silence of deep winter, something stirs beneath the ground. Not yet to be found, the cold still keeping it bound. With no room to grow, it eagerly waits for the sun to finally show. A new dawn on the horizon. The land has awoken, the silence broken. It pushes up through the deep winter snow, piercing the icy glow. It blossoms and shows off its yellow petals, the remaining snow round it glittering in the sun like precious metals. Spring sets in and lets winter rest. Hear the young birds chirping in their nest, the trees now freshly dressed. Others too awaken from their slumber. Forest dwellers big and small made their way to the clearing, all gathered to enjoy the warm air. The bear was taking a much-needed bath in the pond, while the rabbits were busy cleaning out their burrows. The squirrel frantically searched every nook and cranny for those missing nuts. Meanwhile, the birds rested on the branches, plucking at their feathers and basking in the sun. All is as it has always been, nothing of the unforeseen. But what was that? A strange being stood at the edge of the clearing. Standing upright and dangling the other legs on its sides. Not enough hair to be a bear, too big for a rabbit and lacking feathers. Definitely not a fox. No, it can't be. A human, whispered one of the rabbits. Gasps! Everyone stopped dead in their tracks. The human then took a step forward. Immediately the rabbits raced down their burrows, the squirrel bolted into a bush, and the birds flew up to the very top of the tree, leaving only the bear in the pond. Hesitating slightly, the human removed the leather satchel and took out some nuts. Placing some on top of a small rock, the human then retreated into the forest, sitting down on a tree stump, keeping their gaze on the clearing. Several moments passed until the squirrel finally picked up the courage. Inching ever closer, keeping its eyes locked on the human, it was finally close enough to smell. The squirrel then grabbed all he could and rushed up into the tree. It seemed that it tasted as good as it smelt, because not long after, the squirrel was looking down from the branches, hoping for more. The human waited a moment, and then placed some berries on the rock, and retreated into the forest once more. This time one of the birds swooped down and grabbed them, then flying back up to the safety of the trees. After the human came out for a third time, even the rabbits were keen to join the game. They waited longer than the others, but ultimately left their burrows and hopped over to the rock. They found 2 carrots, neatly laid out, and the rabbits eagerly dragged them back to their burrows to enjoy the feast. The bear watched the commotion from a distance, feeling that bread, berries, or carrots were not worth the fuss. Then the human took out a fish and placed it on the rock, while staring directly at the bear. The human then left the clearing completely, letting the bear enjoy the meal in peace. The seasons went on. The human kept coming back bearing gifts that he gathered by the cliffs. With time, they accepted him as one of their own, given the kindness he had shown. Despite not being amongst his own, he was no longer alone. Did you almost fall asleep there? That's quite alright. You need the rest. You think the story sounds familiar? I'll leave that up to your imagination. Actually, we should both get some sleep. Just look up at the stars and let your mind wander. See you in the morning. Good night.